Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of the Looks Like On podcast. This is the second conversation with Paul Kurlancheek on the podcast. I mean, actually, Paul and I, we meet once a week in an online support group with people from all over the world. And so far, it's really helpful for mental health. Yeah, it's great to have a support group like that. But so, anyways, back to this specific episode, we're talking about addictions. And this episode was, I guess it was manifested because I just asked Paul one question. I asked him, why did you quit smoking weed? And then this entire conversation just blossomed out of that. I love how one question can trigger an entire conversation. Yeah. All right, enjoy.
Um, so I'd like to start with some breathing, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sounds good.
I need to breathe. I think you may need that. Let me turn off my phone so it doesn't ring
Okay.
like that every time.
To who?
Okay, my phone is off. All right, good. So just find a comfortable position. Bring your awareness into your body. Notice that you're sitting down, so you're not holding up most of your body. And just imagine a string is coming down from the ceiling to hold your head up, to pull up your head, so you don't even have to use any energy to hold up your head. Be aware of your belly, and the next time you breathe in, think the number 1. When your belly goes down, think the number 1. Breathe in 2. Breathe out 2. Breathe in 3. Breathe out 3. 4. 4. 5. 5. 6. 6. 7. 7. 8. 8. 9. 9. 10. 10. 11. 11. 12. 12. I'm going to ask that the universe, the divine spirit, the beloved, whatever it is that you might call it, will help me say the words that are important for people to hear for their highest good and for the highest good of the universe and the deepest healing. And with that, we can start. Very good.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Always a great way to come up with what needs to be said.
Like it clears our mind, right?
Yeah, clears the mind.
Right. So I plan to have this conversation with you because this question came up in my mind about why did you quit smoking weed, and also why did Ram Dass quit LSD? Because I was wondering if it's the same answer for both.
Well, I don't think it's the same answer for both, because I'm not sure. Are you sure that he completely stopped ever?
Actually, I'm not sure. I kind of was just
Yeah.
assumed that.
No, I think this is the wrong assumption. I'm pretty sure that he said that he occasionally would take acid, uh, um, long after he met his guru, that I think he wanted to see what it was going to do, how he was going to react to it again. Do you know the story about him giving acid to his guru? Do you know that story?
I've heard of it, but could you please tell it again?
Yeah, when he met his guru, and I think it was maybe the second day. He met him probably in the evening, and then they met again the second day. And the second day, the guru said to him, because what Ram Dass was doing is he was going around India, and whenever he would meet a guru or a teacher, he would give them acid to see what their experience was like. So he had he'd seen other people respond to the acid. When he gave it to the guru, well, the guru said to him, because he'd forgotten all about that he was even there for that purpose. Ram Dass forgot that he was there for that purpose. The guru said to him, I understand you brought me medicine. And Ram Dass is like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. He didn't connect the medicine being the acid. He said, no. He says, I know you brought medicine for me. And then it clicked with the Ram Dass. He said, oh yeah, that's what happened. I brought this medicine for you. And he brings out, he pours some pills into his hand, because in his bottle of pills, he has different kinds of medicine, probably psilocybin, mescaline, all kinds of different pills. And the guru takes, he says, yeah, that one, and it's the acid, and then he says, well, give me more. I don't want, there's not one. He gives him two. He gave him 3 tabs of acid, and it was a high dosage of acid. Each one of those pills was a high. They used to be in micro dosages or whatever it is, but it was a lot. I mean, there was a lot of in each one. It wasn't a microdose. It was something else. I don't know what the measurement was, but it doesn't matter. And sure enough, the guru takes 3 tabs of acid. Now I've done acid, and I would take a half a pill, and it would hit me about an hour later, and it would be off to the whatever. Who knows where you're going to end up? And so Ram Dass is waiting, and he's still with the guru, and he's waiting, and he's waiting, and he's waiting for the guru to lift off, and nothing happens to him. He has no experience of any kind of hallucinogenic experience at all. And Ram Dass comes to the conclusion that this man is at such a high frequency or level of vibration that there's no effect on him by this thing that you and I take it, we would be out for days. So I think, and I'm 99% sure that my memory is correct on this, that Ram Dass never said he'd stop taking it, that he would occasionally dose, and he would do it in a spiritual fashion. I met a guy here in Thailand that I admire greatly, who once a month, I'm not sure if it's once a month, once every 6 months, he has some land out in the woods in the forest here. And once a month, and he's a Thai man, and he goes out and he takes a healthy hit of psilocybin, which is the mushroom, and or mescaline, which is the mushroom. I'm not sure, remember which. But anyway, he sets the intention. He holds the mushroom in his hand and sets the intention for the universe to direct him for the highest good. So it's totally a spiritual experience. He's not doing it to get high so he can hear some good music or have great sex or whatever. This guy's really out there to get back into nature and to, at the deepest level possible, to really just recharge himself. And so I think Ram Dass, would do that occasionally. But that's a whole different story than being addicted to weed. The first time I took weed was in 1967, and I fell in love. It was absolute love. I think at the time it was more of the indica variety of mushroom of weed, which is more the relaxing mushroom, the relaxing weed, not the sativa, which is the more energizing and the more I want to dance and have fun. Because I remember sitting back in my couch and just relaxing at a level I had never ever experienced before. The relaxation was so profound. I actually started to hallucinate. while I'm on the couch that my body is moving back and forth. It's like uh, pulsing energy moving out of my body and coming back and out of my body and coming back.
Whoa.
And uh, I fell in love. I mean, this was the love of my life. It was the thing that I needed most and wanted most in my life. I had been addicted to many things before that, and that will just I'll tell the shorter version of that story, but it's true. You know, it's leading up to the addiction to weed. When I was in my probably 6, 7, 8 years old, I got addicted to sugar, to sweets. Now, so that was candy, it was ice cream, it was soda, it was anything junk food, pretzels, salt and sugar were my two go-to foods. And it was a healthy addiction, an unhealthy addiction, but it was an addiction nevertheless, because when something's an addiction, there are always negative consequences. So with me, the sugar made me get fat, very chubby, and back then they called it chubby. And it started to be a hindrance to me because at school the kids would make fun of me. I started to be have poor self-esteem. I mean, I didn't call it self-esteem back then. I just my body. I was grossed out by my body. I never wanted to see anybody to see me without a shirt on ever. And nobody wanted me on their team. You know, it was like horrible consequences, but I couldn't stop. That to me is addiction. I'm doing this thing. I don't like the results of it, but I can't stop doing it. And that led to addictions from that to chasing girls, to cigarettes, to booze, to weed, to overworking, to become a workaholic. And in a few, before we're done, I'm going to just explain how somebody becomes this addiction and what its purpose is, how it forms in someone's life. But then it came to weed, and I fell in love with weed because I knew that with this one chemical, that I would never have to worry about being lonely again. And I'm running away from loneliness. That's my core wound. Lots of people have different core wounds. My core wound was loneliness. And it was so pervasive and so powerful in my heart that when it hit, I would do anything to make it go away, anything and everything. And but with weed, sex is better, music is better, you feel more creative. It answers a lot of different creative needs. It's a wonderful distraction from your pain. The indica source of weed that's being used as pharmaceutically now is for helping people to fall asleep and to get rid of pain. It literally works. It takes away pain and helps people to fall asleep who are insomniacs or have so much pain they can't sleep. So it kind of made sense for me to get addicted to that. And I ended up smoking it for 26 years. Probably, there was a couple of years when I was on my guru trip, my spiritual trip, where I was able to give it up for periods of time, maybe even for maybe a year or two, because I was so connected in and wanting to get that spirit, wanting to have that spiritual experience. But then it would come back again, and sure enough, 26 years later, and what happens is, for me, so the first time I smoked, I relaxed at a level that's the most wonderful, ecstatic experience I've ever had. At the end of my experience with marijuana, I would smoke weed and I would get paranoid. And the process of getting paranoid, I would get hyperactive, and feel like I'm crawling out of my own skin. It's a bad trip. It's basically a bad experience, a horrible experience, and I can't stop doing it. I'm hitting the joint every night, just one or two hits. I'm not like smoking during the day. I have a job. I have a a relatively important job. And but it's my go-to at night to relax. And instead of relaxing, I'm getting up and I'm sparring. I'm doing spinning around in circles, trying to get this body feeling out of my body of being hyperactive, and I can't stop doing it. I can't stop. So I'm gonna. This is important because I think this is true for anybody and everybody on this planet. For me, if I can't stop doing something I don't want to do anymore, and I can't stop, I call it addiction. Because a lot of people fart around with, they're playing with the idea. I ended up spending the last 20 years from the age of 58 to now, to 56 to now, something like that, working with addicts. And they're always talking about, well, I'm not sure I'm an addict. I only binge, I only drink on weekends, or I'm only this, or I'm only that. And they're playing with, the defense mechanisms for hanging on to an addiction are very strong. Like there's a reason for having the addiction, and the defense mechanisms that allow you to say, well, I'm not so bad. I'm not like Jerry over there. I'm not wearing my addiction, my definition of an addict used to be, well, it's those guys that live under a bridge and they got a raincoat and that's all they got. And they're sleeping in the rain, and they got no home to go to. And I wasn't like that. I mean, so I had to get sophisticated enough in my thinking to understand that no, addiction isn't about what condition you end up in. It's whether I don't want to do this anymore and I can't stop. I don't want to smoke anymore. I can't smoke. I don't want to eat this chocolate anymore and I can't stop. I don't want to work this hard anymore, whatever. I can't stop. And that was very, so I don't want to stop. And what happened for me was very interesting. I worked with it. I had a business, and one of my employees was an alcoholic who had gotten sober through Alcoholics Anonymous. And she had gone to a therapist, and she sees me. She doesn't know I'm an addict. She doesn't know that part, but she sees that I'm miserable. At the time, I'm a multimillionaire. I'm the envy of most of the people in my hometown. Not all of them want to be me because I'm the richest guy in town. Pretty much always the richest guy in my small town, not a big town. But I'm the richest guy in town. I've got the cars and the wife and the kids and the big estate, 24 acre estate. And I'm pretending to be happy all the time. I'm pretending that I've climbed the ladder of success, and look at me, and I'm pretending that that's cool. But when I'm alone, when all the lights are off and all the people are gone and I'm alone, I'm dying inside. I'm so lonely. It's a horrible thing to climb the ladder of success and get to the top of it and find out that I'm still in so much pain. That all that money, all that economic security, all that financial abundance meant nothing. Nothing at all. It didn't help me one iota in becoming. So she kind of sees that I'm, she's kind of an empath. She can see that I'm suffering, and she says, I want you to go see this. Why don't you go see this therapist? And I thought, okay, I'll go see a therapist. I don't know that she's sending me to a drug and alcohol counselor. I think I'm just going to see a regular therapist. So I go into this guy, I go see him, and I tell him how miserable my life is. I don't like my job. I don't like my wife. I don't like my sister. I don't like my kid. My kids I like. But I don't, I'm so unhappy and so miserable. And after an hour of listening to me complaining, he says, I think you have a substance dependency. And I was shocked. I said, what? I never told him I was smoking weed every day. I never told him that. I used to be I was an alcoholic before I found weed. I was drinking all the time. And he says, I'm going to be away for 2 weeks. I'm going on vacation. I'm going to be away for 2 weeks. I don't want you to drink or drug for the next 2 weeks. And I want you to go to this place called Alcoholics Anonymous. This 12-step program meetings. And I got so angry with him. I wanted to go across the desk and hurt him. I was so, don't you understand? It's not my fault that I'm miserable. It's my sister's fault. It's my wife's fault. It's this fault. It's that fault. I'm blaming everybody on the planet. And so I said to myself, well, I'll show him. I'm not going to drink or drug for the next 2 weeks just to show him that I don't have a substance dependency. And that was the easy part. Going to the meetings going to my first AA meeting was incredibly difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go in there. I'm very well known in my town, of course, because I'm wealthy. And I have a lot of customers, and some of those customers might be in that meeting. And I don't want them to see that I've hit bottom, or I'm a low-life drunk, or something like that. So I go down meeting, and I'll make this part of the story short because it's just so humorous. I'm trying to sneak into this meeting, and I want to sneak out. I committed to going, but I'm going to sneak in and sneak out. And I go down it's in the basement of a church, which for most 12-step people, a lot of times they're in churches. And I go down the steps, and at the bottom of the step, there's 3 greeters there. And all of them light up when they see me and say, "Welcome." And I'm so embarrassed. I'm trying to hide, and they expose me right out the gate. Everybody, people in the room turn around and like, "Oh, and some of them do know me. And but I mean, it's such a stupid thing. If they're at an AA meeting and I'm at an AA meeting, why should I be embarrassed about letting them know I have a problem? But at the time, I have this arrogance and this lack of wisdom. And I'll just what happened at that meeting, which I really didn't understand a lot of what was going on. It was just so overwhelming to be there, and I'm trying to understand what's going on, and it's so new to me. And I did recognize, I didn't come out of there understanding how the program worked, but I did understand that there were people in that room that had peace of mind, and I didn't have peace of mind. I pretended to have peace of mind. I wanted you to think I had peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted me to think I had peace of mind, but I really didn't. They had it, and I could feel that they had it. And so I kept going back. That's the only reason I went back to those meetings, to see if I could get that peace of mind. And I'll end with that part of the story. So getting back to the weed, so I haven't smoked weed for 2 weeks because I told the therapist I wouldn't. I ended up going 4 months without smoking weed. And then 4 months later, I took a hit on a joint, and I got paranoid immediately. We went to a club, and we were, it was a big dance. There were lots of people there. I hit that joint, and next thing you know, I'm paranoid and walking around going, this is not enjoyable at all. Maybe a week before that, I'd had a glass of wine, and I didn't enjoy that anymore because it doesn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. And then I started taking the program seriously, and I haven't had a drink or drug in 31 years. Whoa. It's 30 years later. So if it's all right with you, I want to go back to the root cause of addiction.
Yes.
I think this is important for anybody that's listening. So you understand it's not your fault. It really isn't anybody's fault. Like I said, I spent 20 years working with addicts on all the different levels from beginning level up to where I was in charge of trauma and anxiety, the unit for that. And I developed wellness centers inside of rehabs. And, so let's go back to childhood, because it starts there. There's 2 reasons people who become addicts. One is genetic predisposition for it. So if your father's an alcoholic, or your mother's an alcoholic, or if you look at your family tree, and I got 3 uncles that are alcoholics, and 7 cousins, and there's a good chance that there's a chemical reason for, genetic predisposition for it. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the possibilities. The other possibility is the nurturing part, which is dad's a drunk. He's a mean drunk. He's a drunk that's unavailable. He doesn't even have to be mean. He just has to be unavailable, because his number one love in his life is a glass or a bottle, and it can be mom. It doesn't have to be dad. It doesn't have to be alcohol. In some cases, it's workaholism. My family were workaholics. A lot of workaholics in my family. So dad worked 6.5 days a week, so was not available. So let's go back to this childhood stuff, because 5 requirements for surviving childhood: air, water, having an environment that can take care of you. So if it's cold, it keeps you warm. If it's too hot, it keeps you cool. Mm-hmm. Air, water, food, nutrition, and love. And I'm not talking about And I mean love, love, love. So if you're a child, like let's say you're 0, 1, 2, and dad's going out to work 6 days a week to make a lot of money to show you that to make the best possible life for you. Or dad's on an over the road truck driver and he's driving 6.5 days a week, because there's lots of those too. Or he's in the military and he's part time and he's going off to 2 months to active duty. Or mom's a single mom and she can't take, she's got to work 3 jobs to make sure that there's food on the table. Whatever the reason is, it's not necessarily because of neglect. It's any kind of neglect, any kind of I call it an adjustment disorder or trauma. Trauma is trauma. That's somebody's beating the crap out of you, or you're literally being so neglected that you can't. All those other needs you're hard pressed to meet any of those needs. But the other one, that loved one, is like super important. If you know, babies don't care about how much money you make.
Mm.
They want to be held. They want somebody to just pick them up, hold them when they're up, when they're in discomfort. And they want to feel nurtured, that love that comes from oxytocin, the love of the chemistry of the brain that tells you I'm at a chemical level, I am loved. And if that's not there, and then on top of that, so now I'm building my ego, of my identity of who I am. And one of the feelings that comes about for a child's point of view is, if dad's going to work 6.5 days a week, or mom's going to work 3 days a week, and there's just nobody there for me, or in my case, they gave me over to a housekeeper to take care of my needs, and she didn't like boys. So now it's all negative.
Jeez.
All the shit I'm getting is negative. So in any case, if I'm not getting loved and the household environment is one of fearfulness or some kind of insecurity or anger or depression, or there's mental illness in the family, there's a whole bunch of reasons that children can't get a healthy ego. They can't develop that healthy ego because the models for that are unhealthy. Not because they want to be maleficent. Yeah, they're not mean people. It might be situational, whatever it is. We're not saying all parents are bad, but we're saying if you didn't get those love needs met, if you didn't get that feeling of I am loved, I am worthy. So to spell it out for you another way, if you're a mother, or if your father is an over-the-road truck driver and he's gone 6 days a week and he comes home on the 7th day and all he wants to do is sleep, he's got no energy for you, a feeling starts to come over your body like, I am worth less. Mm-hmm. It's not something you can verbalize. You can't say it. You don't know what the feeling is. You just feel it. But I am worth less than his work. Mm-hmm. I am worth less than his drinking. I am worth less than his being absent all the time. I'm worth less. So what happens is, how you feel. I feel worthless. Mm-hmm. I felt worth less, and now I feel worthless. Mm-hmm. So age 7 years old, there's no love coming my way. There's absolutely no love. There's no touch in our house at all. I have 3 sisters. We don't touch each other. I have mother and father. They don't touch each other. There's no symbols of affection ever. I mean, ever. The one woman that's in my life is really angry with me and hurtful to me. And so at 6 or 7, I pick up a candy bar or whatever it was. And boy, oh boy, does this feel good. Mm. It's my first feel good. And I'm not the only one. And it sometimes comes later for children. Maybe they're 13 or 14 and they pick up a drink. And how many households are there that a drunk started because mom and dad have a party and the kids running around finding the half full glasses of booze and drinking it and liking it, and it's his first feel good. So for all the reasons in the world, I have no inner self that's giving me security. I'm incredibly insecure. I pick up a drink and guess what happens to me? I don't feel insecure anymore.
Mm.
Hello, we're on, we're off and running.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the you've got peer pressure saying, hey, I want to be like the other guys. I want to be like dad. I want to be, I want to drink with them. For those of us, like I said, um, food addictions run in my family. So there's no love coming your way. So when they want to give you something feel good, they give you chocolate, they give you candy, they give you something that's being brought to you by your environment.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of the people on this planet are, unless you come from a really wonderful, loving family, and it doesn't have to be rich, because I have a friend who comes from a loving family, and they were not, dirt poor, but they were, by comparison, a lot poorer than we were. But I would go over to their house and I would feel something in that house that I didn't feel in my house. I didn't know what it was.
Mm.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really what it is. If you don't know love, you just assume that this is the norm. So people grow up in a family without love, and then they go into loveless marriages, or they sabotage marriages so that they're back to being unloved again, because that's their normal parameter for what love is.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an amazing experience. I mean, so to see it all unfold, or to understand how it unfolds. So people come to, they get to the point where they have to go into a rehab, and I'm going, the first thing I want to do is, brother, it's not your fault. Everybody comes in and they feel so guilty and so ashamed and so broken down that they can't make it in society, and they can't, all the different things that are happening to them. It's like, let's start with, there's a saying in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, that goes, when you come to Alcoholics Anonymous, we're going to love you and love you until you can love yourself.
Wow.
And that's what happened for me. I found people in there that totally understood me. It's called a fellowship. So fellowship is the key feature in this thing. Is like, I can't do this, but if somebody's with me, together we can do what I can't do alone. That's the whole. And I just wanted to add something else that's might be helpful for those people who might hear this and want to know why. So it's a God-based religion, a God-based fellowship. But God doesn't have to stand for GOD. GOD stands for a group of drunks. So we can help you because we're a group of drunks that are no longer drinking, and we're going to help you to become one of us. But you don't have to believe in a guy with a beard. You don't have to believe in somebody with 10 commandments. You don't have to believe in anything. You have to believe in the program. There's actually a scripted 12-step program for how you get healthy, and it works. And so that's all you got to do is try to convince somebody, just try this, man. Just try it. Now, the other feature, and I know this is probably, but anyway, it's reality. For me, a 12-step program wasn't going to do it enough, because I was so broken emotionally, so much dis-ease in my emotional understanding of the world, that I needed therapy on top of it. Mm-hmm. So I had to do both. And I see a lot of people that they just never get healthy. They never get sober. And they try to work the program real strong, but they just can't get sober. And I try to tell them, listen, you probably, like me, you're going to need therapy as well. You need both of those things. So there's the way long answer to why I'm different than Ram Dass. What's the difference between an addiction and somebody just using something occasionally? There's lots of people that can go out and have a beer or two and they don't become alcoholics. There's a lot of people that can smoke weed occasionally. that aren't addicts, but
Mhm.
addicts, and then I think there's a lot of the population in this country. So to me, I'm like looking at people going, well, you're working, these billionaires. Why are they working to become? They got billions of dollars. Why are they working? One guy was said, I only sleep 5 hours a day, so 19 hours is no, yeah, 19 hours a day. He's working. Why? To get more billions. That's an addiction to me. That has nothing to do with making money.
Mhm.
He has no. He's if you're not sleeping that much, you're never getting in touch with your own feelings. You have no idea who's living inside of you. All you are is a machine running after money,
Mhm.
or running after power, or running after sex, or there's supposedly a couple of hundred different 12-step programs now for anything from food addiction. There's a couple of different kinds, sex addiction, a couple of different kinds, uh, marijuana addiction, cocaine addiction. They all have their own 12-step programs. There's addiction. When I was in California, there was a program for Under Earners Anonymous. There was a program for Overspenders Anonymous. There's a program for adult children of alcoholics, for children of
Mhm.
alcoholics, because it's so, we're all just, so many people are just looking for a distraction so I don't have to feel the way I feel.
Yeah. So how did you eventually? So like you did the AA, you went to
I did the
therapy,
program, yeah.
and then that was it. Like you just that was the
No,
end.
it gave me enough time. I got stopped drinking and drugging, like I said, and I got enough clarity in my mind that I could go to a therapist and actually be effective in working through. And I had wonderful therapists. Someday we'll do a podcast on how to pick a therapist,
Mhm.
because I am a therapist and I know all the, all the different things to look for, and whether you're found the right one for you.
Mhm.
Um, because there's so many therapists. One of the reasons a lot of people go into psychology and therapy is that we're all so messed up that by becoming a therapist, we can convince ourselves that we're okay.
Mhm.
But in reality, um, the thing that I look for, and because I train therapists now, is you only can go as far with somebody as you're willing to go for yourself. If you haven't fully gone in and deeply, deeply looked at your own stuff and worked on your own stuff and worked to heal your own stuff, you're just going to stay at the surface level of issues. So
Mhm.
somebody's going to come in and talk to you about their problems for an hour, and 10 years later they're still coming to talk about their problems for an hour, and they're not getting any healthier
Mhm.
because you can't go into their real issues because you have never gone into your own real issues.
That's true. That
That's
makes
real,
sense.
that's the secret of this whole deal.
Mhm.
And I've been very lucky to have great therapists who really took me way beyond just listening to my problems. As a matter of fact, that was not important even. It was like, uh, but that's another story. We'll do
I'm looking forward to that episode.
that. um, yeah. So I do want to, I don't know if this is okay to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I am available to people for consultations as to whether or not you need help with addiction.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that can be, if there's some way that people listening to this could get in touch with me or to you, and then you can get back to me with them. If they
Yeah,
want,
sure.
it's free. I'm not going to charge them anything.
That's
Just to
amazing.
see, if they, what would be the best thing for them, because a lot of people have no idea what to do.
Sure, yeah. Just let us know, like, yeah, how to reach you. I'll send them the link and everything. Or
Okay.
if anybody's in Thailand, Paul lives in Chiang Mai. So if
Well,
you happen to be in Chiang Mai, you can pay my little visit, see what's up.
yeah, something. Um, how's that? I don't know if there's anything more. Any questions, comments?
I still feel unclear to like exactly the point where you knew you dropped the addictions?
Well, like I said, I didn't know the therapist. It's okay, when I knew I needed help.
Or
Well,
like just when you knew that you had dropped the addictions?
probably 2 years into my recovery. About the second year of my recovery, I recognized that I had not had a drink or a drug. In 2 years, I had not had a cigarette or a cup of coffee in 1 year. On the first day of my recovery, I gave up cigarettes. I gave up drugs, booze, cigarettes, and coffee on the same day.
Wow.
And my friends, after 2 weeks, begged me to start smoking again because they said, "Oh, you're so miserable. Please start smoking again because we can't handle you." So I started
Mm.
smoking again with the idea that I would stop again after a year. So after a year of sobriety, I stopped cigarettes and coffee.
Mhm.
And again, I think what is important for people to understand that I don't want booze anymore. I don't want drugs anymore. I don't want cigarettes anymore. I take an occasional sip of somebody's cappuccino because it looks good. And that's about it with my coffee intake. Um, and it's not like I have willpower. It's because my brain has been reprogrammed.
Mm.
And there's so we talked about the problem for a while. The next part is to talk about the solution. We talked a little bit about the solution of being AA and 12-step programs, which are going to reprogram your brain to start to love yourself.
Mhm.
So imagine if you are addicted. I'm going to give you an imaginary thing. You're addicted to chocolate brownies,
Mhm.
okay? And that you can't stop using them. You can't stop eating them. And you're not eating them to where that's affecting your health, but you just don't want to do it anymore because you're starting to notice that you're spiking out with energy after a brownie, and then you're going down into the valley of no energy or almost like a depression afterwards.
Mhm.
So you start to get the clue that, oh, maybe these chocolate brownies aren't good for me. Well, that's at the conscious level. At the unconscious level, there's a need to have some distraction from your pain,
Mhm.
from your. So if you used brownies to distract yourself from your pain, you're going to get addicted to brownies, and you're going to keep using brownies even though you start to have consequences from the brownies. And your brain's going to go, I don't want brownies anymore. Today I'm not eating a brownie. And guess what happens? By the end of the day, you've had a brownie.
Mhm.
And that's what addicts face every single day of their life. If they don't get the help, I'm not going to drink today. I'm not going to drug today. I'm not going to, overeat. I'm not going to whatever. And then we do it anyway because the conscious mind is not in control. The
Mhm.
unconscious mind is in control. That's where because your unconscious mind was developed as a child.
Mhm.
That's where your programming is. You are programmed. I know that you have a Latin background.
Yes, my family is from Peru.
Okay. Do you speak Spanish?
Yes.
Okay. When did you learn how to speak Spanish?
I guess it's probably my first year of being alive.
Yeah. And it wasn't a problem for you, was it? It wasn't like they sat you down with a book. You just listened to people speaking Spanish,
Right.
and you just ingested it. You digested it. You just took it in,
Mhm.
right? There was not any work involved. Like tying your shoes. You watch people tie your shoes. They showed you how to tie your shoes, and after a while, you started tying your shoes, and you've never had a problem tying your shoes after that. So
Mhm.
think about it this way: if you were born in a Chinese culture, guess what? You would have been ended up eating with chopsticks.
Mhm.
But you were born into a Peruvian influence family, and I don't know if they just eat with spoons and knives and forks or not, but you'll tell me.
Mhm.
And if you were born into an Indian family, you got a piece of flatbread, and you grabbed up your food in the flatbread and you ate it with your fingers.
Mhm.
All these are programs. They're all programs, and the purpose of a program is so that you can fit into your culture.
Mhm.
You can fit in. Forget the culture. You can fit into your family,
True.
right? If your family grows up speaking Spanish and all of a sudden you end up speaking Japanese, you're not going to fit into your family at all.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all the healthy programs. I learned how to dress myself. I learned how to eat. I learned how to walk. I learned how to speak. These are all healthy programs that help me to fit into society. But if dad's a drunk and I'm picking up from him an unhealthy program that I'm not valuable because his booze is more valuable than I am, or I'm picking up any mom and dad are angry with each other all the time. So now I'm picking up the program of a loving relationship is where two people fight all the time. I'm picking up all these unhealthy programs and I'm going through my life now with all these unhealthy programs running me.
Mm-hmm.
And on the conscious level, I'm going, well, I want a loving relationship. I want affection. I want this, but I get into a relationship and I sabotage it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people on this planet that want love desperately and then sabotage relationships because they don't know how to help the healthy one. It's not their fault. They were programmed to, at a very deep level, to want their relationship to look like their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And if childhood was dysfunctional, if childhood was a lot of angst and anxiety, that's going to be the kind of family they're going to develop. I know this. I've lived it. I'm not speaking out of turn here. I've lived it. I've done it over and over again. I recreated my dysfunctional family over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Not wanting to, but that's what I did because somebody would come to me that was loving and I didn't know what to do with it. I never had, somebody's coming to me and they want to hold me and they want to demonstrate that they love me. And I'm going, what is this? It scares the crap out of me.
Does it still feel that way now?
No, I've had a lot of reprogramming done.
Mm.
So let's talk about it from the purpose of adulthood. What if your purpose of your adulthood was the responsibility of your adulthood was to sit down with somebody who could help you to recognize which programs you want to run and which programs you're running that you don't want to run. And unfortunately, it's really difficult for a person to sit down by. So here's what came to me after a while. I have a broken thinker. I do. I have a broken thinker. And I kept trying to fix my broken thinker with my broken thinker.
Mm.
A broken thinker can't fix itself. And the harder I tried to fix myself, the more I spiraled downwards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people are doing. So in so many ways, I was very successful businessman. I'm programmed to be a successful businessman. And I did that. So now people want to be me. They're looking up to me. And I'm forgetting that I have a broken thinker because I can fix businesses. I just can't fix me.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep trying to fix me. I get every self-help book you could possibly get. I'm looking at all these different things, all these different places. This guy's going to fix me. This book is going to fix me. This program is going to fix me, and none of them work because they're all just working on the conscious level, and nobody's helping me reprogram the unconscious level.
Right.
I'm going to give you the listeners an idea. There's a YouTube video called Weight Loss Hypnosis. It's by David McGraw. I may have sent this to you already. I'm not sure. But it's a 30-day self-hypnosis program. And for 30 days, you're going to put this on when you go to bed at night. And it's going to put you to sleep or not put you to sleep. It doesn't matter whether you fall asleep or stay awake to listen to it. It'll work no matter which, because when you're falling asleep, you go into theta wave state of consciousness.
Mm.
And that's the consciousness of hypnosis. That's the consciousness of your unconscious mind in relaxation. So your conscious mind is going to go to sleep. Your unconscious mind is going to be listening to this 30-minute audio program. And what it's going to do is going to reprogram your brain to love yourself. Now, for those of us who are really sick alcoholics and really have a lot of issues, it's not going to be enough. I'm sorry to say, you're probably going to have to join a program that's designed to help you, whether it's Cocaine Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous or Marijuana Anonymous or Food Addiction Anonymous or Gambling Anonymous, whatever it is. But if your only real issue in your life is maybe you have had not such a dysfunctional family, but maybe you just want to amp up your love for yourself and start to demonstrate that, So now Nick starts listening to this program for 30 days, and he, at an unconscious level, is aware that that he's in love with himself. He's starting to really love his body, love his situation, love his organs, love every part of his being at a deeper level. And he goes into this store and they're having a special on brownies. And Nick sees the tray of brownies, and what comes into his mind is not, I want a brownie, not that I have this craving for this brownie, but he starts to see the brownie as what it really is, which is poison.
Hmm.
And unconsciously, the the operating system in his being, the part of his being that tells him what to put in his mouth and what not to put in his mouth, rejects the brownie as being something that's unhealthy, and that I love myself too much to eat something that's unhealthy.
Hmm.
And now I have the, not willpower, because it wasn't a matter of willpower. He has no willpower over brownies.
Mm-hmm.
He's proved that his life. But now he has a different program running in his head, so he sees the brownie completely differently.
Hmm. Like it has no
And
more purpose anymore, right? Like there's no more.
I don't have the love. I have love. On
Right.
top of that, I have love. I'm not starving for love anymore, so I'm eating brownies because I'm starving for love.
Hmm.
I have love, and I don't need the brownie. And first, secondly, is I don't want the brownie.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I love myself too much to eat the brownie. And that's exactly what happened to me with chocolate chip cookies. I literally walked into the place where I worked, and after 30 days of listening to this audio tape, this thing, now I'd already been sober for a long time, so drugs and booze were no longer part of my issue. It was an addiction to chocolate chip brownies, and I didn't plan on it. I didn't accept it. Where I worked, they fed us lunch and dinner every day, and they had a tray of my favorite chocolate, not only chocolate chip cookies, but my favorite kind of chocolate chip cookies.
Hmm.
The crispness, the size, the amount of chocolate chips, the whole thing. And I walk in there and I look at it because they're at level, second level high on the shelf. So they're right in front of my eyes. And something happens inside of me, and I look at those cookies, and before I would, my hand would be reaching out for one of those cookies before I could even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I look at the cookies, and this thought goes through my brain at the conscious level. It says, I don't want that. That's poison. And I didn't want it. I wasn't showing any willpower whatsoever. I just didn't want it.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe totally that we can change our programming. It's about work. It's not going to happen because you say I, because anything at your conscious level is not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
You can't change your unconscious level with your conscious mind.
Right.
Sometimes it happens. Sometimes there's something that's powerful enough to do that. Like you might have you might have an episode, something that, but you see it with heroin users all the time. They use heroin. They go into withdrawal. They go into they pass out. They die. They literally die. And
Mm.
then, or this is my favorite heroin story. Guys, and I know this is true. They would watch somebody would die of a heroin overdose, and everybody would run to get that kind of heroin because it was going to be very powerful.
Oof.
Literally, their friends of the guy that died can't wait to find the dealer of that particular kind of heroin because they know it's going to be powerful enough to get them off.
Whoa.
See, I work with addicts. I know these stories first. I mean, at the deepest level, I've treated trauma victims multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
lots of times.
Yeah, I wasn't aware about this stuff until last year, basically, when yeah, due to like relationships, like I guess like my deepest wound was like a mother wound.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel I'm still healing that now, but at least
Absolutely.
there's progress on that.
Yeah.
And but last year I got super triggered during a relationship breakup and starting a new one, and just kind of going back and forth between like the old girlfriend and the new one,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I couldn't understand why am I doing this, and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, eventually I guess it became clear that it was a self-love issue that I had
Mhm.
that I wasn't even aware of until it got triggered by this. Like I thought, I intellectually thought like, yeah, I love myself. Why wouldn't I love myself? But like there was some subconscious program running, and I still feel it's running a little bit right now.
Yeah.
Like it's not totally cleared up, but I
Yeah.
have faith that it can be.
Oh, I can help you with that. Those
Sweet.
things, those things are doable. I do that. I mean, that was my job, was to help people clear up the wounds. Like, close your eyes for just a second.
Okay.
We're not going to do anything, but I want you to just close your eyes for a second. And I want you to imagine that you could look down inside of yourself to the mother wound that's around you. And it's going to have a color. And as soon as you see that color, and it'll be the first impression is usually the right answer. Tell me the color that you see around your heart of the mother wound.
I see brown.
Brown. And if it was the size of a ball, anywhere between a marble and a beach ball, how big is that mother wound that you're carrying? First answer is the right answer.
Maybe like a baseball.
Baseball. And is it hard like a baseball or is it soft like jelly?
No, it's like jelly.
Like jelly. And how old is that wound?
How old is that wound?
Yeah, when did that wound first show up in your heart? It'll be easy for you to figure that out. You don't have to think about it too much. Just listen for the
Yeah,
answer.
I'm about like 3 years old.
3 years old, right? And so um, you've been carrying this wound. It's brown and it's soft and it's taking up the size of a large part of your heart. And is there any reason for you to hold on to this wound?
No, there's no reason.
So you'd be willing to let it go?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So you can open your eyes. So people come into me and see me all the time, and they say, "Oh, I don't have. I've healed everything inside of me." And all it takes is that little experience that we just did then for people to realize that they've healed a lot of things up in their mind, but the heart is still carrying the wound. And that's the most important part, is to heal the wound at the heart level, not just at the mind level, because it doesn't work. It's not enough.
Mm.
The heart wound is still, I mean, for you to be the best person you can be, you want to heal as many of the wounds of your heart as you can.
Mm.
It's really important.
I'm
And
glad that you
most therapists are working on people's heads and trying to change the way they think, and they're missing it because they never healed their own heart wounds.
exactly.
Exactly. I know it's true. I went to a therapist one time and I was astonished at how horrible a therapist could be. Someone that was probably influencing other people's lives and giving them hope, when this therapist had never, ever, I could tell by her work, she had never, ever healed her own stuff. Now, this is going to piss off all the therapists in the world if they hear this, but not all of them, because a lot of them have done their own work.
Yeah. And this therapist that you just mentioned now, I'm guessing she was certified, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, she was she grabbed insurance. She,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's
Well,
why I'm
people,
really excited to talk about in the next episode about how to choose your therapist. That's super important to know.
Bruce,
Just
yeah, go
just
ahead.
just real quick about the quick visualization that you mentioned. Like it was really helpful that you helped me to put a size and a texture to the wound because I had
Mm-hmm,
never thought about it as jelly before.
mm-hmm,
I kind of thought about it as like I don't know, like a program, like a computer program, like a
mm-hmm.
software. But now when I think about it as jelly, it's like, well, that's easy to scoop out because it's jelly.
If you have the technique for it, scooping
Mm,
it out. See, the universe never likes a vacuum.
mm,
So when you do this correctly, and I want you to do it with a therapist, I don't want you to do it alone,
mm,
you can't leave a void inside of yourself. You have to scoop that out, yes. But it's not, it's more complicated than that.
mm.
If it's done right, it's more complicated than that.
It still has to
Because
be filled, right?
it has to be filled with something else,
Yeah.
and that something else can't be faked. It has to be something that's
Oh
real.
yeah, right.
That's a real. That's a real passion for you.
Mm,
Something that you're passionate about,
mm,
and just take my word for it. What we'll do is you and I will do an experience, so you can experience what it's like
okay,
to replace that, to do the healing with it.
cool. Sounds
I don't
good.
know if we'll do it on a podcast, but we'll do it.
I think we might as well make it into a podcast. It could help somebody.
I don't want people doing this on their own at home.
Mm,
I think it's too dangerous.
okay.
I think, people are, I really would like somebody to be with them. It's like going on a trip. It's always best to do it with somebody who's been there rather than you going off into the unknown on your own, especially around something that might have trauma related to it or some deep emotional disturbance to it. Well, it
Sure,
is. It's
sure.
always about a deep emotional disturbance, so we wouldn't be working on it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's not. I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay, okay. I totally trust your judgment on this.
Trust me. Some people, they have a catharsis of emotion,
Hmm.
and they might be less likely to want to experience that if they think others are watching them. There's a whole bunch of reasons why it's probably not a good idea.
Wait, you're saying it's not a good idea to make a podcast for the viewers or for me or for both or something else?
But I wouldn't want anybody to think that they could replicate what we did by themselves.
Okay.
And, yeah, it's not about money. This is about, I don't want anybody to have a traumatic experience or a psychotic experience or any kind of experience that takes them into a deeper level of depression,
Yeah.
anything like that. And, yeah.
Or you could do it for me and then they can know to come to you for guidance afterwards.
Yeah, we can talk about it afterwards and you can share your experience with me.
Cool, cool. Sounds good.
Cool?
Sounds good. Great. Wow, this
Think we're
is
done?
I think so. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this I don't know what to call it. Rewiring, unwiring, untangling. I don't know how to call it.
I call it reprogramming.
Reprogramming.
Here, these poor innocent children are being programmed for some healthy things,
Hmm.
and depending on how dysfunctional the family is, for some very, very disturbing things. I have a friend who's a therapist whose mother was schizophrenic
Mm.
and did not always take her medication. And she told me she had experiences as a child of her mother drowning her, putting her underwater, holding her underwater, and then coming out of it and bringing her up out of the water and grabbing her and holding her and telling her how much she loved her.
Whoa.
Now, that's going to mess you up at so many levels, so many, so many, so many levels.
Jeez.
And what I appreciated about this woman is that she worked very hard on her own health and became a healer for others.
Mm.
And she was one of my therapists that was really instrumental in my getting better.
Wow.
So with that, I'm going to leave you. Namaste.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Ciao, mate.
See you again very soon. See you.